Hi, and welcome back to another episode of aNERDspective, where I, Tony from aNERD Gallery, sit down with friends all over the world to talk and to learn new perspectives around Indonesian textile art. And today, we'll be talking to Cecile Schimmel from the Bali Curator, who is helping brands overseas to get in touch with artisans all over Indonesia to carry out their projects. And without further ado, this is Cecile's aNERDspective. Right. Okay, thank you, Cecile, for joining us in today's episode of aNERDspective. How are you doing?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me today. I'm feeling very honored because I think you always share such interesting content. So I feel very honored to be here and talking with you today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and you are based in Bali. As the name
Yes,
suggests, the Bali Curator.
correct. I'm based.
Yeah.
I myself am based in Ubud, and our office is in Denpasar.
I see. Okay. Yeah. So, I actually came across the Bali Curator through Instagram algorithm, and also some of our friends that has been featured in the past interviews has of them, and I find it interesting from a perspective of a sourcing agent working with textile artisans and working with overseas clients, and hence I'm very interested in the stories of the Bali Curator. Yeah. So probably before we start, maybe you can introduce a little bit about yourself, who Cecile is, and your journey in building up the Bali Curator.
Okay. So yeah, my name is Cecile. As you mentioned, I'm originally from the Netherlands, but I've lived in Bali since 2013. My background is in visual anthropology, and that's actually how I first came to Indonesia because I did an internship in Yogyakarta in Java. And later on, I also joined in a research project in Bali and Malang on East Java. So that's kind of like how I came into Indonesia, and yeah, I'm still here now. So still enjoying it.
When do you come to Indonesia?
The first time was I think in 2008, but I've lived here since 2013.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's quite a while too. So.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while now. And so yeah, like I didn't start the Bali Curator from day one. That's been quite a process, quite a journey to get into that. Like as I said, my background is in visual anthropology, and I used to work as a photographer. And actually, when I worked as a photographer, I also did some jobs for brands, that were producing products in Bali. And I also did a few photo stories of, behind the process, what was going on. So that's actually how I kind of like came into the knowledge of, producing in Bali, working with artisans in Bali. From there, me and my husband, we got inspired to start our own brand, which is called First of June. And it was a brand with bags and accessories made of leather. We produced that in Yogyakarta in Java. But obviously from that process, we learned a lot because we were working with the artisans ourselves. And also, we found that many colleagues, like from other brands, were having issues with their production processes. And especially ones that did not live in Indonesia, that were not based here. We got a lot of questions from them about, how do you do this? And, can you maybe help us, to find a maker for this or for that? So yeah, basically, like actually in the beginning, we started because we had our own brand, and we started to help out like some other brands, just like, just helping basically in the beginning. And then from that point on, we saw that there was like a massive gap actually between all these brands wanting to do production in Indonesia and all these artisans having like great skills, but just maybe not always knowing how to market these skills and how to find the right customer for their products. And that's basically like how the Bali Curator was born.
Yeah, it seems that it's very organic. Yeah.
Yes, it wasn't planned. It just kind of like happened. Yeah.
Yes, very nice. And probably like what are the ranges of like services that you do actually?
Yeah, so normally, but now obviously because of the corona situation, sorry, we cannot do that. But normally we also do sourcing tours. So then our clients, when they come to visit Bali, we will invite them on a 1-day tour, and we will visit artisans with them based on like their request. So they have a mood board or they have designs. We select some artisans and then we go visit them together. And actually, that's one of my favorite services because I think it's really important for brand owners, to understand who is making their product and what's going on behind the scenes. And I think like the best way to do that is to actually, show it to them, like literally on a tour. But yeah, obviously because of COVID now, we cannot do these tours. So we also work a lot remotely. So our clients are mostly based in other countries, and we help them with the sample development. We help them with sourcing for new products for artisans. We also help with the production management, and quality control also is a big part of our job. So before the shipment, especially because when they're based overseas, the shipment is sometimes quite expensive. So we want to make sure that the products are checked, before they are shipped. So that's also a big part of our job.
So it will I would guess like pre-COVID and during COVID, essentially the services are more or less the same except for the sourcing trip portion. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct. Because we were already used to work remotely. So yeah, only I think maybe it became more relevant because many people who used to come to Bali, and do sourcing themselves, they couldn't. So we noticed quite a lot of people who used to come to Bali couldn't do it themselves, and now were more in need of an agent like us.
Of course, you do a lot with textiles and natural dyes. What are some of the products that you work with?
Yeah, so basically, like what we say, if it can be made in Bali, we will work on it. So it's very broad. But from our clients, I think about 60% are fashion brands. So yeah, a lot of textiles involved there, and yeah, so it really depends. Like a lot of dresses, jackets, shirts, pants, like all kind of fashion styles, basically. And yes, we try to promote using like natural dyes, because we also feel that a lot of clients haven't really considered that before. Maybe it's not for everybody. It's well known. So we try to suggest it as an option. And we try to explain about the options that are available in Bali, because there are several options for natural dyeing in Bali.
Yeah, that's very interesting that you actually not just helping the clients to source for something that they have in mind, right? And then you actually like suggested stuff that are like locally, basically is their skills and heritage included as well.
Yes, that's true, because we feel like the best projects, they are collaborations. And sometimes we have clients and they are designers, they have their shop, they're like great business people or great designers, and they have like great concepts, but just like what they want is not really connected to what's available here in Bali, for example, for the type of materials that they want, or and that's not their fault, or that's not a mistake, but usually they are also very open to suggestions. They because for everybody it's easier if we work with things that are actually available here, instead of, and also it's more, we support as much as possible using materials that are sourced from within Indonesia rather than importing it from other countries, etc. And also it's a more easy process if we can do it like that. So the clients usually they are actually happy if we do that.
normally the conventional is that, oh, a designer have a certain requirements, and then they are like looking whoever that can fit that. And it's very interesting and encouraging to have that two ways communication and collaboration.
Yeah, like to be honest, what I often say, because many people, they approach us and they say, so okay, so you're giving education to artisans about how they should work with clients. But to be very honest, when I see like in reality what we are doing, maybe 80% of the time we are giving education to our clients rather than giving education to the artisans. And that's about, yeah, we're telling them about the processes, about what's available, you know, about timelines, what's realistic, what isn't. Yeah, because most of the time, like what I feel is that, you know, all the brands, there's no brand ever who said like, okay, so now I want to make a brand that's not ethical and that's not sustainable. You know, there's no one ever said that, and no one has that intention. It's just that to do the other way around, so to make it actually worthwhile, because that's like our goal. We want collaborations that are workable and beneficial for both the brand and the artisans, because we think that's the only way the collaboration is sustainable. So, and in order to achieve that, it's really needed that both parties understand each other. You know, we cannot just have one party trying to follow the other party, but it needs to be a collaboration between those two parties. Well, and then the problem is that maybe, you know, not all the brands, they have the knowledge about what's going on here on the ground. Not all the artisans have skills, you know, in storytelling or in, you know, expressing what's going on. Well, and that's where we come in. Yeah.
And your clienteles are mostly overseas, or where are they from?
Yeah, mostly overseas. But we do also see that we get more and more inquiries from local Indonesian designers, and we are very happy about that. So, but I think their needs are a little bit different. So overseas clients, maybe they need like full production management from us. Also, for example, quality control services, etc., etc. And for Indonesian clients who are based here, maybe they can do, you know, like the quality control, etc. They can do it themselves, but they just need more information about, you know, recommendations, like where can I find an artisan. So we do work a little bit differently with Indonesian clients and overseas clients.
And you mentioned a little bit about sustainability, and also in the tagline, ethical sourcing agent. Could you explain a little bit more about the ethical and sustainable portions that the Bali Curator provide?
Yes. So yeah, ethical, like we think that's a very, very interesting concept and word, because we see it everywhere. But if we find, you know, if we go looking for the meaning of it, it can be quite abstract sometimes, you know, like what do we actually mean if we say we are ethical, right? So what we believe is maybe like what I said before, like if a collaboration, it needs to be uplifting for everybody involved. You know, if one party is growing and another party is not growing from that, that means there's something not balanced. So we believe that in an ethical collaboration, everybody grows. You know, everybody benefits from this collaboration, and that's what we try to do. We try to explain to to our clients and also to our makers, like there needs to be a balance. For example, also in pricing, you know, if it's too low price, obviously the artisan is not going to grow from that. If it's too high, maybe the brand's not able to sell it, and you know the collaboration also is not going to be sustainable. So there needs to be a balance for that, also with timelines, with everything. And we really focus on that aspect. But I think what is maybe a little bit different from our approach when compared to many others is that we don't put the responsibility for all of that on the artisans, but we do put a lot of responsibility also on the brand.
Maybe you can explain a little bit in terms of a process when a client approaches you, and then what happens in the process.
Yes. So usually we get an inquiry, like maybe an email saying like, okay, so I want to produce, let's say, dresses or T-shirts in Bali, and my concept is businesses. First, we will have like a meeting with these clients, and also like we have a questionnaire, and that's to know whether or not these clients actually suit to our concept and to the approach that we are going through. Because if we have a client who says like, yeah, I need, I don't know, like 2,000 polyester dresses every month, for example, something like that, we know that that's not something that we are going to be able to deliver. And also, maybe it's not our goal also to deliver that kind of production. So we think it's really important, from the very start to make sure that we are on the same page with the client. And therefore, we are not too scared as well to sometimes say no to potential clients. Not because we don't want to help, but just because we think we're not the right fit. And so from there, but if we think like, okay, so they have a similar vision mission with what we are doing, and they're a good fit, and we think that the products that they're after are possible to be made in Bali, then we go into a meeting and have like more discussions. Then when they are starting to work with us, the first thing we will do is to really go into the planning like very deeply. And with planning, it's not just, okay, so we call an artist and say like, hey, can you make this and start? But we really go into like, okay, what methods do you want to use, for example? So what do you want to do, natural dye or synthetic dye? What are the pro, what are the contras, and et cetera, et cetera. We go into fabric sourcing. We compare all the options. When that's really clear, and also make sure that the designs are really clear, because sometimes not all our clients are designers. Like sometimes they are business people, like they have a store or they have a concept, but they're not a designer. So we make sure that their concept is translated in a way that the artisans can understand what they want. And then if that's all clear and done, then we move forward to sampling. And then, we have a prototype made, work together. And there also, it's very important for us to actually collaborate with the artisans to see, if there's a problem, we don't say, oh, that means, you're not good enough, or, but we see like, what did it, what's the problem in this process? Maybe we should use a different technique, or we should adjust the design details, or maybe there's a solution for this. So we work together about that, and then when the final sample is confirmed, so the client is happy, the artisan is also happy about it, well, then we go into production.
How long does the process take?
It depends a bit like on the type of product, but overall, I would say like if we, I can just break it down. Like we start from the planning process is maybe 1 month. So for sourcing and planning is about 1 month. Then having the first samples made, like with revisions and going back and forward and all that, that will take about 2 to 3 months. And then the production, we start with a pre-production sample, so to make sure that we exactly know, okay, this is it, this is what it's gonna be. That will be about 1 month. And then the production obviously depends on the quantity and everything, but usually about 1 to 3 months, depending on quantity and the product, etc. And then maybe another month for quality control and revisions, and then we ship.
I see.
So it's quite a process.
And those artisans are all in Bali? Or?
Yes, because for us, we do sometimes also collaborate with artisans that are based in other parts of Indonesia, but mainly in Bali. And that's because, as I said, like the collaboration part is very important for us. And we feel it's just a bit more complex if we collaborate with people who are based far away. If they are based in Bali, we can more easily collaborate and visit and understand about their process.
Mm-hmm. I would guess that because, as you say, majority of the clients are fashion brands, and you might have like textile artisans ready. I'm just curious: is there any like not funny, interesting requests for a particular materials or artisans that you have to source?
Yes, definitely. There always are. Interesting. Maybe, like to be honest, like we get a lot of requests, and like the ones that are most most sticking to me is that I love it when I see people making. For example, they have done a sourcing tour and they found some materials, and then they come up with a design which is like really incredible and which we would not have thought of. Like we're like, oh wow, so you are combining, for example, these kind of materials with each other, and then it works out really well. That's the most I love those kind of projects. Like if that happens.
I would like to ask, in terms of working with artisans, how do you select which artisans to work with, and what's the model or relationship to these artisans?
Yes. So we prefer to work with artisans directly. So we prefer to work with people who are actually makers, because also a lot of people in Bali, they sell goods, but they are not the makers directly. The reason for this is obviously for transparency as well. Also because we feel like that collaboration is better possible if we work with the artisan directly rather than have someone else involved again. So yeah, that's something that we find interesting and important. Also, obviously we look at the type of product that they can make and the skills that they have. We are honest, like it's not that if the quality is not good enough or like according to our standards, if we say like, okay, this is not neat enough, for example, for the sewing or something like that, we don't really like to say, okay, so you cannot work with us, but we like to give feedback about that, and we explain usually like why and what needs to be improved and why, because well, the reason usually is simple. It's just because the clients need to be able to sell it, and there needs to be a certain standard for that. So we try to still give coaching to the artisans if we think it's not enough, and not just sign them off like that. So, but we do look at the quality of the products, of the type of products they can make. And actually, the most important thing for us is their attitude, basically. Like the attitude on, do they want to grow? Like, because we want to collaborate, like, are they open to collaboration with us like that? Because on the one hand, of course, the brands, we ask to be quite open-minded and flexible about the designs and everything. And we ask the same to the artisans as well. Like, it needs to be a project where we work together, all three of us, so the client, us, and the artisans. Are they open to that or not? That's basically the most important part.
And I think you mentioned earlier that you want everyone to grow as well.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that is very important. And I think you also mentioned that about managing expectations. How do you convey that to the clients? For example, of a textiles with natural dyes that you cannot get the same color tones because every batch will be different. So how do you
yes,
convey
so that's a very interesting topic, because often we get, for example, like Pantone codes, and we do also request that because then we know what they have in mind. So it's just a way to communicate that. But then, of course, the challenge is to communicate back that even though we have a Pantone code, the actual color is most probably not going to be exactly, like that Pantone code. And even though if we have a sample, the production is not going to be 100% like that sample, because, it's a different batch, it's a different mix, it's a different material, etc., etc. So that is something that every time we take the time to to explain that to our customers. And how we do it is usually by showing examples. So we say like, okay, for example, like in the last batch, this was the sample, and then this was the production, just to make sure, they have an mindset. And also because we do, as I said, we do quality control before the shipment leaves, but we discuss like that quality control checklist beforehand with the client. So, and there we already specify, so the range for the colors that are accepted, what is that range? It's not just one color, but, what is still tolerable, and what do we say, like, really like, okay, no, that's really too much of. So we try to define that as much as possible before we start the production. And, by already talking about that, the expectation of the client is already, different, because they already expect that it's not going to be exactly the same.
Yeah, they have been mentally preparing themselves that. Yeah. And I guess the other portion is the timelines, right? With the weather.
Yes, we very often, almost daily, we get emails saying like, okay, I need t-shirts and I want to launch them in 3 days. Can you start? Blah, blah, like that. And then we got, like, as I said, even the planning process only, like, without starting sampling, is already about 1 month. So yeah, let alone having like production ready in 3 months or in 3 weeks, it's very challenging and not possible. So yeah, we are very upfront about it, and we try to be as much as possible. But that is still a challenge, because as much as we can anticipate on things that are going to happen, we cannot look into the future. Like, we don't know until it's happened. Like, we can expect the unexpected, and we try to do that as much as possible, because we know something is going to happen somewhere in the process, like whether it be the weather, or whether it be I don't know, the material not available, or something. So we try to anticipate as much as possible on all these things, but still we can only give estimates at the front. We cannot give like a guaranteed timeline for that.
I guess there must be like some range of possible delays, right?
Yes, but like, we do already, like, for example, and that's like, we often get asked about that. Like, we say the sampling process is 3 months, and then a lot of like first-time clients, they say to us, but why is 3 months? Like, if I order to a tailor, it can be ready in a week. And then yes, of course, that's true. It can be ready in a week, but that's without having to go back and forward about the color, or changing something in the design, changing something in the measurements. Also, we need to take into account that there's communication needed with the client and the artisan. So there's like 2 ways communication. There's time for checking, there's time for revisions. So in our initial timeline, we already anticipate on 1 or 2 times, revisions that are going to happen.
Yeah. And could you share a little bit more of the challenges that you face while running the Bali Curator?
So our main challenges is what we talked about before, like getting everybody on the same page, like getting those expectations straight, to make sure that our clients and the artisans and us all have the same idea about the outcome of the project, and about the timelines, and about everything. That's the main challenge, especially because we are also working in different cultures, in different countries, different time zones. There's a lot of differences that we work with, which sometimes makes it challenging, to get everybody related. Which sometimes also is funny, because in the end, we're all working towards that same goal. And that's what we always try to emphasize to our clients and to the artisans as well. Like, it's good for everybody if this project goes well. So we need to find a way so everybody has the same goal. So theoretically, it should be easy to find, a way that works for everybody because we're all working towards the same goal. And that's, our task and also our challenge to communicate that to all the parties involved and to make them understand that we should all be working together. We're not like working against each other. If like an artisan says that they need more time, it's not because they don't want to make the deadline, but it's just because something came up and something happened and they actually do need more time. And that's something that sometimes difficult to understand maybe for the client, especially because also from their perspective, maybe they already booked the photo shoots, or they already or they have a potential buyer, for example, who needs the products at a certain date. But yeah, our challenge is to get everybody on the same page about these timelines and about everything about the results, and make it work for everybody. It's a fun challenge though.
Yes, I definitely understand in terms of doing production and weather permitting or any delays, and yes. And I think you mentioned a little bit in the beginning about sustainability and responsible consumption. What sort of volumes are you working with?
Small volumes. A lot of our clients also are startups, but even for established brands, it usually are small volumes. So I would say a standard, like usually we work with about maybe 20 pieces per style, or 30 pieces per style, something like that. Can be a bit more if it's a brand that's more established. But like if we get an order of 1,000 pieces, that we see that as a big order. That's big, like in Bali, because also the manufacturers that we work with, as I said, are more home-based individual makers rather than factories. So the brands that we attract also are brands that usually have a bit of a niche market, and they are more focusing on creating like unique designs, really like crafted pieces with that story behind it. Usually, like the brands that we work with, they also find that important. And that's the kind of production actually that we think suits best in Bali. Bali is not for the mass production.
Yep, and definitely there is an increasing trend for sustainable brand, sustainable fashion. What was your experience?
So for like in general, like I cannot say that like everything we do is 100% sustainable. For example, we also work a lot with ceramics, and like if we ship them overseas, we still need to use, for example, bubble wrap and all these things. Like we are trying to find alternatives for that, but it's not always possible. And that's also for like the processes itself. Like not everything is 100% eco-friendly, but what we try to do is at least be transparent about everything, so that also the brands know what's going on and they can make conscious choices. Like what we say is, so here's an option to do natural dyeing. They will, these are the consequences. These are the strengths. Maybe these are the weaknesses. This is the cost, etc. As opposed to synthetic dyeing. This is the cost, etc., etc. And then we return the final decision to the brand. So what do you want to do? And some of our clients, they say like, oh no, I want to go with synthetic dyeing, or they want to. So it's not like all our productions are 100% sustainable. We don't claim that, but of course we find it very important, and we want to promote more about it, and mainly by giving educations. And the funny thing is that most people say, oh, so you educate the artisans, but as I said, no, we actually more give educations to our clients about what they could do, what they could consider. And we see that more and more people are, when we give them an option, they say, oh yeah, okay, let's do it. But it's just that they don't always know about it.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, I must say that we do also find many people, like as I said also in the beginning of this interview, like there are no brands that have an intention to make a non-sustainable brand, but it's just, to make it really sustainable, yeah, there need to be some compromises sometimes, especially in budget and timeline. Usually those are the two big factors. Well, and then it's like, okay, we want to be a sustainable brand, but we also want it to be cheap and we want to be quick. And that's a big challenge, obviously. We cannot always make that work in that way. And we try to explain about it, so if you want one thing, you also need to want the consequences of it to really make it work.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Again, it's that communication, because we also encounter brands who are like, oh, we want to be sustainable, but they don't exactly know what exactly being sustainable means. Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's important for that giving that feedback and education.
Yeah, that's true. Like, yeah, we think like transparency and education is basically the key for a lot of things. But yeah, it is true that what is a bit shameful maybe is that sometimes, sustainability is also used as a marketing tool. We see that sometimes, and um, I I think like what we've been talking about a lot is that a very interesting concept, if you ask me, is that brands usually have the power to describe themselves in terms of how sustainable they are and how ethical they are. And also usually it's the brands who rate, for example, the factories they work with or the makers they work with. But it would be very interesting to hear from the makers how they would rate the brands. You see what I mean? So we see that there are rates possible for the makers or for some factories, like they get rates on Google Brands or on Google Review or in wherever. But we hardly see makers who are giving votes to the brands, or like what methods did they choose and what timelines did they provide, and how did they deliver the designs, like did they actually give detailed briefs at the start of the project or not. All those kind of things need to be taken into consideration. And like for me personally, I can get really passionate about that when I talk about it, because sometimes I see it happen that a brand gives a not clear brief to a maker, and then they make a sample or they make a product, and it doesn't turn out the way they imagined it, which does make sense because the brief in the beginning wasn't clear. And then the maker gets the bad review, whereas I think that's a bit questionable. It's not always one party who needs to be responsible for those kind of things. It's a collaboration, as I said.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same for the sustainability part, I think.
And how do you mitigate that? Because at in one point you are kind of like in the middle, and you have like no say in how the brand present themselves, but you know what's going on behind the scene.
Yes, so I think there's a downside and there's an upside, like from our position, because the makers usually, like, why do they not speak up? That's an economical reason usually, because they think, okay, if we provide a bad review for this client saying, they didn't give us long enough time, and it's not true that they say they're ethical, but they're actually not. What they think is, yeah, but that's gonna hurt my business because they're not gonna order with me again. And that's the reason, why everybody stays silent, basically. And for us, because we are independent, like also our system for charges, for example, it's not based on commissions, or it's not based on percentages of the manufacturing cost. So, and we do that on purpose because we want to stay independent. We have maybe a bit more power to speak up if something happens, because also we can do it anonymously. Like we can say, okay, so the maker has experienced this and this and this, so it doesn't hurt the maker directly if we speak up on their behalf. So that's the positive. On the other side, yes, we do. For example, one of our services is also to provide photo stories of like behind the scenes. Like as I said, I started out as a photographer, so we still do that, like to portrait like behind the scenes of the production. But if we feel that the brand is not actually, living by what they say, we will not accept to do like the photo story for them, because we don't think it's okay if they, they have like all these pictures of smiling tailors on their Instagram, while behind the scenes it's a bit of a different story. So that's our way of doing it. But to be very honest, this is maybe one of the things that keeps me up like at night, to that this is something that I'm and our whole team is often thinking about, like, okay, what can we do, because there's still many steps to be taken. There's like a long road ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's definitely a very unique position to be. I mean, people call it the middleman, but as you said, that I think the importance of remaining independent, and I think you did that with your pricing structure that is not commission based.
That's what we try to do with our business model. So we don't, so we are not dependent on on the orders that are placed at the art.
I wanted to ask about the COVID impact. You mentioned a little bit, other than there is no sourcing trip, so the clients are unable to come down directly. What other is there any particular challenges with respect to the pandemic?
Well, actually, like what we see in, like, for us personally, in the beginning of COVID, it was a bit challenging, because I think many brands also had a bit of a panic reaction, maybe like they didn't want to order products at first. They were a bit hesitant to place orders. So obviously that also impacted us. And how we responded at that time was, we did a collaboration project also to create masks, to at the same time, help the tailors that we were usually working with to still give them a job. And like we started to focus to do more online. We started to do like an online class and things like that. But like
what classes do you offer?
Sorry?
What classes do you offer?
Oh, we did like more sharing, like actually about these kind of things, like what does it mean to be an ethical brand? How can you start? And also, like we aimed at both. We had like an English version and also an Indonesian version. Also because we know that, especially here in Bali, the tourism sector obviously has had like quite a, how do you say it? Like went down. Yeah, quite a bad impact on the tourism sector. So many people did lose their jobs from that. And so we try to inspire, like what can you do? And actually a very interesting thing that we have been seeing going on here in Bali in the last year is that, years ago, there were many artisans, like there were many craftsmen and women here in Bali, but many of them, actually, like especially the younger generation, moved to tourism because maybe it was more beneficial in their eyes, or in their they expected more from that. Well, and then the tourism sector fell down, and what we can see is that actually many people are moving back to like the crafts. So we see, especially for example, weavers, like crafts like that, and we see people starting to do that. So what we try to do is encourage that movement basically, and also explain that to our clients, saying like, hey, actually there are now many people, looking for a job. So, and I must say, like, I was very moved also by a few of clients, and also clients that did sourcing tours with us earlier. They actually contacted us and said like, I feel so bad for Bali. What product do you recommend me to buy, just so I can support these makers? Which I found very thoughtful, of those brands. So they actually on purpose did place orders to, and because in my opinion, I think doing business is a great way to help. I feel that's much better than like for example donating or doing goods, but doing business, and especially like on a same level. So not like, okay, you need to work for me, but no, we are doing business together on the same level. I think that's very empowering, especially in a time like COVID, like now. So yeah, the Bali Curator tries to play part.
And another thing that I actually I wanted to get one is the book, the swatches book of the textiles, but the woven one is out of stock or is sold out. So
yes, that's true. Yeah, so that's like another thing that we because well, obviously normally we would go on the sourcing tours and people could see like the fabrics directly, which now is a bit difficult. And we found that we are often getting quite similar requests, to do fabric sourcing for certain types of fabrics. So we said, why not make it, a book so people can, order those and have a look at them themselves. I must say for the hand woven, so we focus on the hand woven fabrics in that book, but it's all fabrics without motifs. So it's not like, for example, an ikat, or it's not like, but it's plain fabric.
Yeah, but those are artisans from Bali.
Also Java. Yeah, also Java.
Yeah, very interesting. If you ever open a pre-order, do inform us.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we will do.
Yeah. And so what's next for the Bali Curator? How do you want Bali Curator to grow?
Well, basically, at the moment we're still, working as usual on many projects with clients. We have a few interesting projects also going on with interesting clients, but I cannot really share too much about that. But yeah, it's very exciting, and also we have a few collaborations going on. Maybe we will develop a few products ourselves in the future, like in collaboration with a few artisans, and like our main goal is like what I said, what we discussed earlier, like how to give a more powerful voice to the artisans. Like how can we represent them in a better way and point out, the things that are maybe not always fair, and not only point them out, but how can we give education to both parties, like how should we handle this and how should we improve this situation, because that's like the whole, like the key of the Bali Curator is that.
Yes, so we are definitely looking forward to the Bali Curator products and merchandise in the near future.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
And finally, before we close off our conversation today, do you have any final messages to wrap up the whole conversation today?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you very much for listening to everything and sharing. Again, as I said at the beginning, I feel very honored to be invited for this interview. So great, thank you very much for that. And as a conclusion, maybe what I would say, like for older brands, like I don't know who will watch this interview, but if you have a brand and if you are working with artisans, just think about it. Think about responsibilities, because you can do it. You can do it yourself. Like anybody can do it. It's not that you have to do it through the Bali Curator to be able to do this. I believe everybody can do this. Just think about who is responsible for what. What did I ask from that other party? Is that fair? Like, what benefit did they get from this collaboration, and what benefit did I get from this collaboration? Is that balanced or is it not? I think that's very important to ask these questions to yourself.
Yes, indeed. Very, very nice words in terms of like we grow together as a collaborator, and that's one of like the takeaways that I would get from today's conversation. How we balance out each other, the strength and weaknesses, and how we vibe off.
Yes, exactly. let's grow together.
Yes. All right. Once again, thank you so much, Cecile, for spending some time for the sharing.
Thank you too, Tony. Very nice talking with you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you learned as much as I did. I definitely find it interesting how brands can work with artisans and collaborate and elevate each other's growth. And if you like this interview, do check out our chat with previous guests over on IGTV or over on our website. And do follow us at aNERD Gallery on Facebook and Instagram to find out more about our latest happenings. And until next time, stay safe and take care.